Hello everyone and Merry Christmas. Today I'm going to look at the games between Stockfish and Leela Chess 0 again in the CCC11 finals. And in this game we get another decisive result. Stockfish is playing white, Leela Chess 0 is playing black, and the opening book goes as follows: e4, e5, f4, get into a King's Gambit with e takes f4, knight to f3, h5, d4 and g5. And this is the end of the book. We've seen this in multiple games numerous times. And it actually gives white a very heavy advantage in this opening. And we'll see why. So Stockfish goes in for the traditional move that all the computers seem to play, h4. This forces black to play g4 so they don't mess up their kingside development. So g4 is a good move because if white now goes knight to e5, black can play d6. And after knight to d3, black can play f3. If g takes f3, then Bxg5 is very nice and hits this h4 pawn and destroys white's kingside structure. So white should play Bxg3 here. But after Bxh6 takes, knight c3, knight c6, it's got a very interesting and weird game. And I think it's rather advantageous to white, but black is doing well in this particular game compared to others. However, if we go back to where black just played g4 in the actual game, white never goes knight to e5, all the computers play knight to g5 instead. And they prefer this variation where black now plays f6, they've just trapped the knights on g5, but white gains 2 pawns, so they play bishop takes f4, f takes g5, and now white always seems to play bishop takes g5, attacking the queen. Bxg7 is literally one of the only moves, and usually they play queen d2, and this is what Stockfish played against Leela. So just to illustrate how advantageous this is for white, white is actually a piece down, but if black now tries to trade pieces with bishop takes g5, white can continue with h takes g, and if black develops normally, let's say d6, white develops with knight c3, bishop e6, let's say white castles, and black goes knight d7. Surely this is fine for black, they're just a piece up. But no. White now can hit out with g6, and it's because black's kingside is absolutely destroyed. There's nowhere for this bishop to go now, it's trapped. So after knight to f6 to give the bishop some space, white can hit in with e5, and once takes, they can play moves like queen f4, and all of a sudden white's attack has just sprung to life. Black's got 3 pieces in the centre doing nothing, they're just a massive target for this queen. And if knight to d7, play can continue g7, rook g8, and let's say rook takes h5, threatening rook takes e5, and all of a sudden white's just got all the pieces into an amazing attack. The black is stranded in the centre, and even though white is a piece down, they're absolutely slaughtering black in this position. So white's just played queen d2 in the actual game. Leela has played rook h7 though, and Stockfish just develops normally again, knight c3, and here Leela goes rook to g7, so they're hitting the bishop 3 times now. So this forces white into a concession. They've got to play bishop takes e7, queen takes e7 is played, Stockfish plays e5. So Stockfish is preparing to castle queenside and stop knight to f6 ideas and even limit d6. If black just develops normally, let's say knight c6, white can also hop in with moves like knight d5, attacking the queen and attacking c7. And if queen d8, there's bishop c4, d6, and white can castle queenside and use this rook on the f-file instead. This is devastating for black. If play continued bishop e6, then white can play check, knight takes e takes, and suddenly the rook is attacked. If bishop takes c4, there's f takes g7, and if king d7 to stop white promoting to a queen, there's moves like rook f8, and this is terrible for black. So this opening is absolutely garbage for black, so it's no surprise that Leela is losing, but we'll go for it anyway, we'll continue. So d6 for Leela, Stockfish hits with knight to d5, queen to d8, and Stockfish castles queenside. Leela plays knight c6, and Stockfish develops normally with bishop c4. And similar to that variation we just looked at, Leela plays bishop to e6, and now Stockfish hits in with knight to f6 check, a discovered attack on the bishop. So Leela takes, Stockfish captures on e6, and now the e-pawn is attacking the knight on f6. If knight to e4 here, Stockfish could continue with queen h6, attacking both the h-pawn and the rook, and if queen e7, there's rook h f1, where queen h5 will probably follow next, and this bishop on e6 was a great job of stopping black from castling. So back to the game though, the knight is now under a threat, so Leela retreats it back to g8. But now Stockfish just opens up all the lines, e takes d6, and now queen takes d6, followed by rook to e1, and preparing for a discovered attack on the king. Leela blocks this with knight c to e7, but now Stockfish hops in with queen to f2. And the point is that now there's nothing really black can do. They can't castle, and they certainly can't move any of these knights away at the moment. So this is a very tricky position for black to be in, and very precarious. So Leela played the move c6, maybe preparing to play king to d8 and king to c7. Stockfish follows up with rook to e4, and again there's not really a lot black can do. In the game Leela played g3, but even if king d8, white can play moves like queen f8 check and pick up the rook on a8, right here. So Leela didn't play g3 and attack the queen. Stockfish simply moved it to f3, and now he's attacking the h5 pawn. Rook g6 was played by Leela, and now Stockfish played queen f7 check, king d8 is the only move, and now Stockfish opens up even more lines with the move d5, preparing to play d takes c6 and pin this queen against the king. If Leela played c5 to get away from his threat, then again white can just play queen f8 check, king c7, and Stockfish is going to pick up this rook on a8. So to try and save themselves, Leela played rook to f6, attacking the queen and stopping queen f8 check. But Stockfish sidesteps this with queen to g7. And again it's very tricky for black to make any moves. There's not a lot that they can do. So Leela concedes here, c takes d5, bishop takes d5. If knight takes d5, then Stockfish will just play queen takes g8, king c7, and again take this rook off, and this is an easy one position for white to be in. So after bishop takes d5, Leela played rook to g6, but now Stockfish hits in with queen f8 check, king c7, and Stockfish finishes Leela off with rook c4 with check. White can even take on a8 if they wish, but play continued king b6, and Stockfish tries to make black rather than take off the material. Stockfish plays queen f3, preparing queen to b3 check, where they'll try and do a lawnmower checkmate. Leela captured on d5, and now Stockfish played queen to b3. The point is, if king to a6 here, then rook to a4 is mate. So Leela is pretty much forced to block this with queen to b4, and Stockfish just takes, the knight takes, and the queen takes with check. Leela's king goes to c7, Stockfish checks again, there's b6, queen e5 check, king c8, and queen to b5, preparing to play queen to e8 check and try and pick up this rook on g6. Knight e7 is played by Leela, protecting the rook on g6, but this now succumbs to queen d7 check, king g8, and queen takes e7. Stockfish is now threatening to play rook to d8 checkmate, so rook g8 is played, but now just rook to d7, and it's going to be mate in a few moves, but Leela actually just lets Stockfish mate them in one. They play rook c8, and rook b7 is checkmate by Stockfish. So that's an early Christmas gift for Leela, a nice checkmate by Stockfish. And again, this was an incredibly easy win for Stockfish. It was under 40 moves. You don't usually see that in computer games, but again, this opening is a bit rubbish for black, to be quite honest. And I'll probably show the reverse fixture tomorrow, where Leela did also win, but it took her a lot longer. But it's probably worth going through anyway. But anyway, Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoyed my analysis in this video and throughout the year, and I hope to see you all in 2020. Please drop me a like, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next videos very soon. See ya.